Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good evening. Thank you for being here tonight and welcome to our series of More Than Just Money, a series for anything that is Islamic finance related. Let me firstly introduce myself. My name is Nurul Iman Najib. I am a research department of IFLSG covering Sharia and finance. Islamic finance at Singapore, or IFLSG, is a community of scholars, finance professionals, and students in Islamic finance. What started as a WhatsApp group has now become a society in the making with a long-term goal to serve the Singaporean community through Islamic finance. Tonight, I'm honored to share this platform with Mdm Suhaida with the topic Sharia Advisors, Gatekeepers of Islamic Finance. Mdm Suhaida Mahpot is a Chief Executive Officer, CEO of Amanie Advisors in Kuala Lumpur office. She joined Amanie in 2008 and was among the pioneers in the company. She is a specialist in sukuk advisory and has been partnering with Dr. Muhammad Daud Bakar for the last 10 years to advise on numerous sukuks locally and internationally. One of the sukuk advised by her has been awarded as Best Securitization Sukuk at the Asset AAA Islamic Finance Award 2017. Apart from sukuk advisory, her primary focus is on Sharia governance, structuring, enhancement, and Islamic financial entities, as well as development of Islamic products. She holds a Bachelor's of Economics, Islamic Economics and Finance from International Islamic University Malaysia and is currently pursuing Masters of Science in Islamic Finance with NCF. Her career in banking and financial industry started as a trainee under Capital Market Graduated Trainee Scheme organized by SC. Prior to joining Amanie, she worked with Affin Investment Bank Berhad since 2006 as an executive of Debt and Capital Markets Department. So let's welcome Mdm Suhaida. Assalamualaikum, Madam. How are you?
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah. I'm good, thank you. Hi, I'm Nurul Iman. Nice meeting you actually.
Thank you. Nice meeting you. It's an honor to be here with you. Inshallah, tonight we're going to share and we're going to learn a lot from you, Mdm Suhaida.
Pleasure.
All right, so let's start off, Mdm Suhaida. Mdm Suhaida, you are representing Amanie Advisor as the CEO. Even being the pioneer in the company that started back in 2005, people call Dr. Daud Bakar a Sharia scholar advisor. So what is the difference between these two, Mdm Suhaida?
Okay, basically Sharia advisor or Sharia scholar are the same. They are both identical to each other. There's no difference between Sharia advisor or Sharia scholar. So normally, when you are appointed as a Sharia advisor to any institution, perhaps, so you are considered as a qualified Sharia scholar in Islamic finance. In Amanie, we have 4 Sharia scholars basically backing the institution. Of course, we have Dr. Muhammad Daud Bakar as the founder of the company. We also have Dr. El Ghari from King of Saudi Arabia as our chairman to the Sharia Supervisory Board. We also have Dr. Katan from Kuwait and Dr. Osama, another scholars of us. So the rest of these people in Amanie is basically the Sharia consultants.
Hence, we understand from here that there is no significant difference between a scholar and an advisor, right, Mdm Suhaida?
Yes, both are the same because once you are a qualified Sharia scholars, normally you'll be appointed
as advisor
to a
okay. So follow up to the question, Mdm Suhaida. What makes a Sharia advisor different from a normal ustad or ustaza in a religious organization? Since the Muslim society on the streets, okay, would normally ask ustad or ustaza that they are familiar with on a financial matters.
Okay, so for this Sharia advisor, actually, they are also ustaz and ustazah from the background. But the Sharia scholars has a deeper knowledge in a specific field. For example, just seem like a medical industry, you know, in a medical, we have specialists in neuro, we have specialists in public health, we have specialists in surgeon. So even though you are a doctor, but there are certain specialties in according to each specialist. So same goes to ustaz and ustazah. If you, the ustaz and ustazah have some basic information or basic knowledge on sharia perhaps, but there are certain specialties that they need to be deep further in terms of their knowledge. Some are very experts in muamalah, some are very experts in ibadah, or some are very expert in legal, siyasah. So same goes, same like doctors just now. So the sharia scholars, especially when we call as a sharia scholars, they have this deeper understanding, deeper skills and experience, in particular with this muamalah industry or muamalah field. So basically they are still ustaz and ustazah. It's just that what makes them different is that they are specialists in this particular field. Perhaps the sharia scholar in muamalah, they are not the expert of fiqh, ibadah perhaps. They have the basic information, but they are not the scholar in tafsir, perhaps on tafsir of hadith, tafsir of Quran. So it depends on which fields are you in.
MashaAllah, thank you so much, Brother Suhaida. We understand that Islam, when we talk about Islamic knowledge, we have different fields. So
yes,
some asatiza, some ustaz and ustazah, they are very specialized in tafsir, and some are specialized in certain areas. So these Sharia advisory, as mentioned, Madam Suhaida, you told us that not that they do not not that they do not have, but they do have the background of Islam, but they specialize in Islamic finance. That's the different, that's the basic distinguishment, right, Madam Suhaida?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, thank you so much for the clear explanation. Next, let's go to the big what. So people will always be curious, what is Sharia compliant? And people will always say, why not? It's not Sharia board. Why not? It's Muslim friendly, or instead halal financing. Why must be Sharia compliant? All right, madam.
So these are actually all terminologies.
Okay.
Basically, all these terminologies bring the same objective. So we are reaching to the same goal. I mean, to make sure that the product is halal, doesn't breach any Sharia laws. So perhaps the word Sharia compliance is because, you know, the finance industry itself is a regulated industry. So when it comes to Islamic finance, the industry itself is very much regulated. So the Sharia requirements or the Sharia laws has been established by the regulator. So the regulator is there to ensure that all the products under the Islamic finance or finance industry comply to these Sharia requirements. Thus, the terminologies of Sharia compliant. But basically, Sharia compliant or halal products or Sharia based carries the same meaning. The objective is still to make sure that you are not breaching any Sharia laws or Sharia requirements, to make sure that the product that you are using in your daily life is halal 100% and Sharia compliant.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, the financial press always describe that Sharia scholars as the gatekeepers of Islamic finance, which is our topic for tonight. Since Sharia scholars are they who give the final stamp of approval whether a product is compliant with Sharia or not. But is there more than just halal and haram?
The main goal is, of course, is to make sure that the product is halal and is usable by the Muslim, basically. So, but it's not only to make sure that whether it's not the only things that the Sharia advisors do to certify whether the product is a no-go or is a certified. You can use that products in your daily life. Even though, I mean, you know, the objective is to make sure that the product is Sharia compliant. So we are always finding the solutions on how to make a certain product is Sharia compliant. Basically, you know, the finance industry, I mean, we started with conventional very much. And then and then the Islamic finance come in. So our role is to make sure to correct things, to make sure whatever products available in the market is usable by the Muslim, it can be used, can be consumed by the Muslim. That's why we are correcting things. So we are finding solutions, we are finding an alternative of how to make it the existing or so-called to offer almost the same products as what we have been offered in previous times, you know, when there is no Islamic finance products. But now we are coming to make sure that there are enough or even more Islamic finance products to be offered, not only to the Muslim, but to the whole world, to the whole
Okay, Madam
community.
Suhaida, through your experience, do you have some example to share with our viewers today, our audience today? Maybe what do you mean when you Islamify something that is conventional? What do you mean, Madam Suhaida?
Yeah, we know that the very basic is of conventional finance is the underlying contract that we are used as is very much depends on the loan contract, you know. Yeah, so a lot of loan transaction happened in the conventional financial transaction. So, but we know as well that loan transaction, especially when it carries some certain additional charges, when we call it as like riba or interest, is very much forbidden in Islam. It's considered as a bigger sin in Islam, right? So,
Yes.
so that's why we are trying to move away from having this interest-based transaction to something which is acceptable from the Sharia. So it's very clear in the Quran when Allah says that He permitted trade, but He forbidden the riba transaction. So that's why what we are trying to do is now we are making sure that we are converting all these banking products. Yes, because the banking products, you cannot run away from having this banking system. In a bank, you must have a deposit, right? In a bank, you must have a financing product. I mean,
Yes.
to buy a car, to buy a property, right? So
Yes.
how to make all these products is usable or consumable from by the Muslim customer is a through an underlying contract or an underlying transaction, by changing the loan transaction into something that Sharia contracts permissible. So some of the products are using murabahah transaction, sale contract, right? Or some of the transaction are using ijara, which is the lease contract. Yeah, some are using this equity-based product. So basically, because in the finance industry or the finance landscape instead, or even the banking industry, we are facing the same people. There are the demand side, you know, people who needs money, the demand side, right? And then we also have the supply side, people who have money, who can give financing, who can invest their money. So both are the same. Either you are from the conventional industry, or even you are in the Islamic finance industry. We are you know, we are having the same people. So it's just that we need to create a product that can be catered or that can be suited with the needs of the Muslim investors especially. But not only that, we are trying to make it more appealing not only to the Muslim investors or Muslim customers, but we are making the product is all applicable or almost likable by the whole community.
Thank you so much, Madam Suhaida, for the clear and detailed explanation on that. Okay, next, when financial institutions come to Amanie to convert their product into Sharia compliance, how much concession do Sharia scholars actually give to these products so that it could be introduced to the market as Sharia compliant in hopes that more product of such nature will be introduced?
Interesting. So in Amanie, we have how should I say? We have two type of endorsement, not two type of endorsement, but two type of you know, giving solutions to the client. In Malaysia, the offices in the office in Malaysia, Amanie Advisors Kuala Lumpur, is basically a registered and licensed Sharia advisory firm under the Securities Commission. So our license is basically on a firm or under the organization or under the corporation category, in which the company may only back by a single Sharia scholar. In our case, for the Malaysian or for the KL office, is backed by Dr. Daud himself. So, but the license is given on the entity, not on Dr. Daud as her personal capacity, right? Okay, for that matters, if the client come to Amanie Advisors looking for a local endorsement, for example, perhaps a client coming from Malaysia or perhaps client coming from Singapore, right? So they don't really require the full board that we have. So a certification by the company like us, by Amanie, using a single scholar is sufficient enough. Because of, luckily we are in the era where the Sharia laws has been established properly, has been regulated. So we have an established ruling set by the regulators. So we are just making sure that each and every product came to us or comes to us when we are doing conversion or when we are developing a new product, that all these Sharia laws and requirements set by the regulators perhaps or by the national standards of each country is met. If you are so from this region, Malaysian has its own Sharia requirements or Sharia standards issued by Bank Negara Malaysia and Securities Commission. In Indonesia, they also have their national standards issued by the OJK. We know that Brunei also is moving toward that direction, in which they are setting their national bodies to ensure that their local Islamic products comply to the national requirements or national Sharia standards. But if your product if your client is coming from this Middle East or other part of the world, which they don't have really regulators that supervise the Islamic finance industry, right? So we have our full board, full Sharia supervisory board, consists of these 4 scholars that I mentioned earlier. So when they come to us, basically what we so the procedure in Amanie is basically we would require a majority vote, which the chairman must agree to all these products. Basically, if the majority comes without the chairman's approval, then we need to deliberate and to convince the chairman to make sure that the product can really go into the market.
Wow, interesting. It's not an easy process to just convert a product.
No, it's totally not. Yeah.
If we may ask, Ms. Suhaida, how long is the process for one product to be converted usually?
So it depends. It depends on the complexity of the product. Some products are very much straightforward. And then it's very much straightforward, and then you can use whatever established rulings that are available. So we just make sure that all these features or all these terms and condition of a certain product met these established rulings. However, if there are certain rulings which are silent in the industry, meaning that this is something a new issue. For example, like years back, there is no rulings on cryptocurrencies. There is no rulings on,
something new like DeFi
and whatever. Yeah. So there's no rulings on that. So it may take a longer time because we need to do a deeper research on the Sharia analysis. We need to go back to this classical fake book because there are no established modern rulings on it. So we need to refer back to these classical books, and that it requires quite a number of discussion basically. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ms. Suhaida, for sharing with us. Okay, now next. Amanie Advisors provide fund management and Sharia advisory service to fund managers using one of the 6 indices as the benchmark. Let's say, Madam Suhaida, and scholar or another Sharia advisor were to set up his own methodology of screening companies. Is that permissible?
Yes.
Oh.
Provided that.
So there's
provided that the introduction or the approval coming from a qualified Sharia advisor or Sharia scholar. Yeah. In fact, Dow Jones, FTSE, MSCI, they are not regulators. They are just globally renowned indices, right? And these indices is backed by a number of renowned world Sharia scholars who is approving their screening methodologies. So anyone can come up with their own methodologies, basically. We have seen in the market a new player trying to impose a new set of screening methodologies. So the Sharia scholars, yes, our Sharia board is deliberating on that matters. We need to come up with our own Sharia analysis. We need to come up with our own Sharia justification of why such methodologies is approved. For example, previously we also have KFH coming up with their own Sharia screening methodologies. It was approved by their own Sharia committee. So whoever would like to come up with their own Sharia screening methodologies, it has to be approved and cleared by a qualified Sharia scholar, not simply any ustazah which is not specialized in the Islamic finance industry, which we have discussed earlier. Yeah. So it has to be certified by a qualified Sharia scholars in this field.
Right, thank you, Suhaida. Next, as we say about your experience, and then due to the long-term period that it can stretch when we do or any screening and etc. So, for example, from saving account to more complex derivatives and to now new technologies such as cryptos, as we mentioned just now, DeFi, and also just to name a few, come knocking on your door every few days. How do Sharia scholars and advisors keep up when there are so much on their plate? So some are complex, as you say, some are straightforward, some they have rulings, some do not have the straight rulings and etc. So how do Amanie advisors, how do they go about?
So we have to, we have no choice basically. So that's the unique of us. So basically, the company, there's no doubt that the company is, we relied more on the name of Dr. Daud himself. But I must say that the other strength of Amanie is the strong team members that we have. So in Amanie, we have consultants coming up from various backgrounds. We have a consultant coming from legal. We have consultant coming from accounting. We have a consultant coming from corporate finance, even the Sharia itself, and or even from the fund management industry before. So, and this team, these consultants are teamed up to join, to share their knowledge among each other, so that we could be equipped not only for the Sharia knowledge, but we also be equipped with the knowledge that are related to this the fast growing industry like finance, for example. So, yep. There is no doubt that the projects coming is quite very fast and very rapid and very, very much different in types of nature. But we must know that the basic of Sharia is there, the foundation of the Sharia. We understand the very much foundation of the Sharia. When we do understand the foundation of Sharia and we know how to derive a certain ijtihad, we know the process of deriving this resolution. So it will assist you to solve whatever issues that you have, be it the product itself is a saving product, or is a normal financing product, or to a complicated investment structured products, or like digital assets, cryptocurrencies and whatnot. As long as the foundation is there, it's just that you need to learn and more in terms of the other knowledge. In Amanie, we are very much advised or pushed to learn more in terms of the risk management. We need to learn more in terms of accounting. We need to learn more about taxation from the legal perspective, so that whenever we come up with a solution, the Sharia requirements can fit into all these challenges. Because from our previous experience, we have some kind of situation when the Sharia requirements cannot fit the legal framework, you know, like, so, and then how we want to marry these two, or sometimes the sharia requirements cannot fit into the accounting framework, so how we want to marry this. So we need to think to be more creative then, sometimes, yeah, because when you would like to come up with a product, right, it's not only to be compliant with sharia requirements, you need to make sure that the product as well is fit into your regulatory framework, or also applicable or fit into your accounting, and
Yeah.
also make sure that the product is also sellable.
The law, yeah, sellable also under the
Sellable
market.
also.
Ah,
I mean,
yeah.
there is no point that you come up with a product that very much
Yeah,
100%
true.
Sharia compliant, but it's not sellable, right?
Correct.
So,
Yes.
so the challenge is that how to make sure that these Sharia requirements can fit into all these challenges, or how to make sure that all this framework or all these issues can fit into the Sharia requirements. So sometimes apa ni? We could find a dead end, so we cannot find any solution. Or but sometimes, alhamdulillah, we could find a very we could find a way on how to marry all these elements to make sure that the product is a good product. Yep.
So from what you have just said is something that is tedious, time consuming, because you need to fit everything. You need to be comprehensive. Like it needs to fit each and every structure, not just haram and halal. It's
Of
more,
course, yeah.
it's beyond haram and
It's
halal.
beyond that. Yeah, it's beyond that.
Like you say, it's law, accounting, marketing. Is it saleable? MashaAllah. So you have great minds in Amanie Advisor indeed. MashaAllah. So yes, before we proceed to the next question, thank you all the audience, and for those that has joined us on our More Than Just Money series, a series for anything that Islamic finance related. With us tonight, Mdm Suhaida, the CEO of Amanie Advisor in Kuala Lumpur, with the topic today, Sharia Advisors, Gatekeepers of Islamic Finance. All right, now, Mdm Suhaida, Malaysia has the highest amount of Sharia scholars according to Islamic Finance Development Report in 2020. Similar to the recently graduate of a medical school, he or she will be attached to a superior. So how long does this process last before we confidently say that this person, this specific person, is a fully fledged Sharia scholar?
Okay, there is no specific numbers to be achieved basically, or there's no specific ruling that you must comply or you must have like a 5 years experience or 10 years experience. So it depends on your capabilities, your skills, your experience, your exposure. So in Malaysia, we have two type of scholars, or we have two criteria to make a person a qualified Sharia scholar. One is a Sharia qualified person, which means that you hold a degree in usul fiqh, meaning that you are a very much Sharia students, Sharia degree students. And as well as we are also considering, or we are also recognizing people who have exposure, who have skills, who have knowledge in Islamic finance, like myself. I don't have a Sharia degree, but I've been exposed to the industry or to this Islamic finance for the last 16 years, for example. So this person, basically, if you are having the Sharia degree, right? If you are having enough or excessive knowledge in Islamic finance industry, you may try to get yourself as a qualified Sharia officer by applying yourself to the Bank Negara Malaysia or even Securities Commission. Because in Malaysia, our regulators will determine who is a qualified Sharia advisor or Sharia scholar. They need to be assessed, they need to be reviewed and cleared by these two regulators. If you would like to go to more on advising the banking sector, then you will go to Bank Negara Malaysia. But if you think that you are capable enough to advise more and more capital market products, then you will apply your license, or register yourself to get a licensed Sharia advisor from the Securities Commission. In SC, basically, we have two types of license for the Sharia advisor. It's either for the corporation like Amanie Advisors or for an individual. So you can go for which license that you would like to have.
Sorry, Madam Suhaida, SC means Securities.
Securities Commission, SC, sorry.
Okay, so that is a different from Amanie, right? So you need to get your license from SC, and then you can join Amanie for that. Or is it how?
No. In Amanie, remember for you to be a qualified Sharia advisor, when we say a Sharia advisor or Sharia scholar, meaning that you are entitled or you are responsible to put your signature on a fatwa.
Yes, to stamp it. Yeah.
So meaning that you are qualified person to give an ijtihad. So this person must get clearance from the regulators, either from Bank Negara or from the Securities Commission.
All right, okay. So there's only one license or there's two licenses? There's two types of license, Suhaida.
If you would like to have clients or you would like to give fatwa to the capital market products, then you need to get license from the Securities Commission. If you would like to sit on any Islamic banks, so this Islamic bank is under the purview of Bank Negara Malaysia, then you need to be assessed by Bank Negara. So
Thank you so much.
Some Sharia scholar may have to qualification or to license, I would say. They can sit at the bank or they can also advise these capital market products.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Suhaida. Dr. Daud Bakar sits in the board of multiple financial institutions globally, including Malaysia's regulator, Bank Negara, where he is the chairman of the Sharia Advisory Council. This sounds like a good business and branding for Amanie advisors, but how does it come to a toll on Amanie advisors, for example, in the key man risk, as well as whether other Sharia advisors services having the opportunity to take in the market share?
So there is no doubt that the brand of Dr. Daud Bakar itself give benefits to Amanie advisors. So sometimes people cannot differentiate who is Dr. Daud and who is Amanie. Dr. Daud is always Amanie. Amanie is always Dr. Daud. In fact, there are two different entities. Amanie is Amanie, which is backed or which is owned by Dr. Daud, and Dr. Daud himself is a scholar by himself, right? The Amanie is also a Sharia advisor by its entity itself, right?
Yes.
So as I mentioned earlier, so there's no doubt that the name of Amanie being recognized in the market is because the name of Dr. Daud Bakar, but he is also being supported by a strong team member that I mentioned just now. I think for the early years we relied so much on Dr. Daud himself, but along the years we established and we firm up our own team members. That's why we are having these various backgrounds of the team members to make sure that our Sharia consultants within the company is very much competent, is very much independent. We can give our own advice based on whatever established rulings applicable in the Malaysia. We do understand the client's need. We do understand the products that the client intend to develop, and then we do our own research, and then we just presented our findings to Dr. Daud and our other Sharia scholars just to get their approval. They don't really do the groundwork. The groundwork is done by the consultants. We deal a lot with the clients, meaning that all this day-to-day work, all this day-to-day research, all this day-to-day communication with the clients is done by the team members. So I believe that the strength of Amanie is deliverables by us, by a team member, in which it can speed up the deliverable process, because we have quite a number of consultants that can focus us on each and every clients or products that we have. So it's not a one-man show.
It's teamwork. It's a strong teamwork that work together. Which will at the last lap it will be endorsed by a Sharia advisor.
Yeah, because the work, the reviewing work, the research work, the advisory work, it has to be done by a consultant, right? So this Sharia scholar or the Sharia board is there just to guide you, to give you direction, and then to give certification at the end of the day. But all this groundwork is done by a team. So that's why we are able to deliver as much as clients that we have at one time. It's not a one-man show. It's a collective team work done in Amanie.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mdm Suhaida. Okay, so Mdm Suhaida, what is your hope for Islamic finance in the future as Sharia advisor?
I think this is not only my hope. I believe this is the hope by any other Sharia practitioners in the Islamic finance industry. We hope to see that the halal and haram is not only in the products, but it should be beyond that. I think we are now moving into a digitalized world in which we hope to see that it's more transparency in terms of doing things. So the Sharia requirements, when we talk about gharar, the uncertainty, it should be beyond the contract. It should be covering the whole ecosystem, so that the Sharia is not only limited to the products. So it should be Sharia governing the whole ecosystem, so that whatever products that we serve to the market, it serves the maqasid Sharia basically. So it's not only beneficial to one party, but it's beneficial to the whole society. Even though you are not using the product itself, but whenever we have the product, it may benefit the other value chain within the society, right? For example, like we are now moving into a value-based intermediation, or this ESG industry, in which when we offer a product that is Sharia compliant, that it does not serve the Sharia compliant per se, but it does give benefits to the other sectors. Meaning that, for example, when a company is certified as a Sharia compliant, but at the same time, they are also upholding this corporate governance. They are also upholding all these environmental issues. They are also upholding all these labor issues. They are not manipulating whatever unnecessary or unethical, unethical activities within the company itself. Because if we are looking from the Sharia screening perspective, right? Yes, the screening is very much limited to the business activities. We do have all these negative lists, but we also look beyond on that. We are making sure that even though the business activity itself is very much Sharia compliant, but we need to see how the management treat the staff basically, or treat their labor. Do they have any child labor, or do they have a manipulation in terms of the labor, or do they have those are things that we need to look that into, meaning that the halal and haram doesn't stop at the product, but it should be go beyond within
everything is interconnected, yeah, Mdm Suhaida, that we need to look into the labor sector. I just have one curiosity, Mdm Suhaida. When you say we need to follow the legal of the country that we are based at, so what about maybe if you can share the fatwa, in form of fatwa? So if the clients come from a Middle East base, do we follow the fatwa of the Middle East, or from the perspective of where the client goes to? So the client goes to Amanie. So the Amanie is based in Malaysia. So so which fatwa would you apply?
Yeah, so we have to make sure that we are not only know certain Sharia standards. We need to equip ourselves to understand the other countries' Sharia requirements, right? So our client doesn't only comes from Malaysia or within this region. We also have clients coming from Middle East, from Saudi, from other parts of the world, right? Okay. So when our clients coming from this UAE, so some countries are very much regulated. They might require for you to comply with their national Sharia requirements. In Malaysia, we have our own Sharia standards. In Indonesia, they have their own Sharia standards. Even the Brunei, in Middle East as well, in Dubai in particular. recently the Central Bank of UAE has come up with this resolution that the institution or the institution that is governed under the Central Bank of UAE, you must follow this AOF Sharia standards. So AOF is another Sharia setting body that come up with all these Sharia rulings for the Islamic finance player. So we need to know each and every requirements. Basically, there is no much difference because the foundation is almost the same. We know the very much basic halal and haram for every matters. There are just that certain features which is having some khilaf or some
differences between the scholars,
between the scholars. So we need to respect and honor for that Sharia opinion. So for clients coming from Middle East, we are using our 4 Sharia scholars. Sometimes we are following the AOF Sharia standards, or even sometimes we need to comply with our all 4 Sharia opinion or Sharia ijtihad. So it depends. Yeah, so it doesn't stop at any whatever rulings. Sometimes clients coming from Australia are using Malaysian laws, because we don't really have in Australia, they don't really have any regulated Sharia. So so it depends on the client itself. Are they okay with the Malaysian Sharia standard? So we just follow through.
Thank you so much, Ms. Suhaida. So before we proceed with our Q&A, we would love to hear from you. What would you advise a student who aspire to be a Sharia scholars of Islamic finance, and what are the skill set we need to acquire, and what is the mentality that we should prepare ourselves, and how do we open up to opportunities for ourselves? Ms. Suhaida, please.
Okay, interesting question again. I've seen quite numbers of graduate students doing internship in Amanie. So I can see like a very different criteria or very much different personalities of each interns that I have for the past how many years. So, but I always tell this to my interns, basically, whoever do the internship in Amanie, my advice is that you must read a lot.
Read a lot. Okay.
Yes, you must read a lot, because in Sharia advisory world, right, you cannot run away from reading. So your duty is to read. Right. So that's why reading is very much needed. You must train yourself to read a lot, and not only to read. You just read. I mean, to start with, you just read whatever book that you want, right? But if you like to focus in terms of Sharia, definitely the finance knowledge is very much needed. So you must not only know Sharia, but you must also know risk management. You must also know fund management. So you must read all these conventional book that available in the market. Don't stop your reading only focusing on Sharia matters, but open up your mind to understand how the risk management from a conventional banker's perspective, of how this legal framework works, of how this accounting framework works. So you need to know all, I mean, not necessarily to know in details, but at least you must have some basic understanding. So that's why, as I mentioned earlier, when we like to come up, or we like to introduce a product, the product doesn't, of course, it has to be comply with Sharia requirements, but it has to be make sure fit into your legal framework, into your accounting perspective and whatnot, right? So, and when you read, right, on top of reading, so you must also challenge your thinking. So when you read something, then you need to ask, why is it so? Why is that like this? So, and then you start doing comparing, and then you are reading more and more books or more and more articles, so that you can do some comparison when you challenge your mind or your thinking. And another skills, of course, when you need to read all these sort of books, as there is no doubt that you need to very excellent, not excellent, very, I mean, you need to be your English level must be, you know, cannot be too low, because I had an experience with my intern before, where where his English level is not that at par, so he stops reading. He cannot proceed with the work that gave to him, because the task gave to him is required him to read a document and agreement, but because of his lacking in terms of the English, you know, in that language, so it stops them. It stopped him from continuing to be in this industry. It's quite frustrating, to be honest, because he has the Sharia knowledge, but because of his limitation in understanding English, stop him from reading and from understanding further, deeper your knowledge and skills in Islamic finance.
Thank you so much, Mdm Suhaida. So I can conclude that Mdm Suhaida advised us to read a lot, and don't limit our reading. Open up to various types of reading, and accept reading that also talk about the conventional part of financing, banking, and etc. All right, thank you so much, Mdm Suhaida. Let's us go to our Q&A. Okay, so we have a lot of people that are very curious about Amanie, Mdm Suhaida. So one of it, okay, I love this question. It's a very curious question. What are Amanie's plan for Singapore? Since it's already in several countries, such in Morocco, such in Dubai. Very interesting. Would you please?
It's a tough question, basically. It's quite a sensitive question. We do have in fact, we had a plan to open up in Singapore years back, but because of this some sensitivity, or because of these regulatory issues that we have, so we can't pursue this dream. But it doesn't stop us to come to Singapore, because we have quite a number of clients coming from Singapore, especially the fund managers. So we advise quite a number of fund managers in Singapore, but I understand that the fund managers in Singapore are very much focusing on the institutional investors. They are not going deeper into the retail as yet, but not to worry. I believe that the time will come, because we also been approached by a firm in Singapore that serve these family offices, or the high net worth individual in for Muslim Singapore, that to making sure that the investment of these Muslim investors in Singapore are very much Sharia compliant. So we are neighbors. Even though we don't have presence, physical presence in Singapore, it doesn't stop us to advise. In fact, we do have quite a number of clients in Singapore. Yeah.
Indeed, we are honored, Mdm Suhaida, for you to be in our IFSG, hosting you today.
Pleasure.
So, okay, next question, Mdm Suhaida. Does Sharia advisors seating in the board of financial institutions create a conflict of interest, because everyone comes from different background? So do you think it will create conflict?
Not conflict of interest, I would say. Yeah, so in Malaysia, for example, there are regulations that an Islamic bank must consist of 5 Sharia scholars, or 5 members. But the other banks or the other institutions, normally they would require 3 members, right? So differences in opinion is good. So definitely you must have conflict, right? But this conflict is very much is good. You are actually challenging each other, so that people will learn more and more and more, and then we are discussing more. You can grow the discussion rather than everyone is following whatever the chairman said. We also have seen that in the industry that only the chairman do the decision. You know, the other members is only okay since the chairman said yes, then we are just following those. So this is not good actually. This is not a good situation. I personally would prefer a very much a healthy discussion. Don't stop questioning or don't stop challenging whatever decision of any other Sharia scholars has been made. It just to create a healthy discussion so that whatever decision that we are giving to the society is a solid decision, is a informed decision. So conflict is good.
Yes, conflict is good. Okay, Madam Suhaida, there are many different views from different scholars. For example, forex, some says it's haram, some says it's halal. So how we as average Muslim, okay, go about making our decision in this case?
I don't think so you must first, why the difference of forex decision? But I think most of the scholars, every scholars knows that the rulings on currency buy or sell, so that the ruling is that it has to be transacted on spot. There's no doubt on that. I believe all the scholars agrees on that. It's just that perhaps the information that the scholar received or the understanding of a scholar to understand the product itself could be a different. Sometimes perhaps they don't really have enough information in terms of this forex transaction on how does it being transacted or how is it being done from the product. So that could lead for a differences. Because I understand the industry. It happens as well in Malaysia. They are quoting some ustaz or ustazah saying that forex is halal, but you must make sure that in which context that the scholar or the ustazah giving that that decision. Sometimes they are just extracting the statement without understanding the full context. That's why it makes the differences in terms of giving the decision. But I believe all the scholars, all the ustaz and ustazah knows very much in terms of the rulings of buy or sell, because there is no differences in Sharia opinion on buy or sell. The differences lies in the product itself. So it's not on the forex as a general, but when it comes to a product, so it gives differences in terms of opinion. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Next, maybe this is the last question. All right, for tonight. Franklin funds have two Sharia funds that are compliant. Since you are the Sharia advisor, okay, the question the person could ask, does it make their other funds also compliant or Muslim friendly?
Which fund is that? Sorry.
Franklin funds.
Franklin fund. Franklin Templetons.
Yeah.
I suspect.
Yeah.
Okay. So for a fund manager like Franklin or the other fund managers, they don't only have one fund, right?
Yes.
So they would have a number of funds under their portfolios. So you must be very careful which one is being certified by us. So for Franklin Templeton, we have, if I'm not mistaken, we endorse 2 or 3 funds within Franklin Templeton certified as a Sharia compliance. But if there is any, if you don't find any certification or our names in the product disclosure sheet or product information memorandum or prospectus, then perhaps that fund itself is not Sharia compliant. So the Sharia certification for the fund does not fall on general basis. It does comes at each and individual fund itself, meaning that even though we are the Sharia advisor to the fund manager, but the Sharia advisor to the fund manager, it always comes to this certification for each and every fund. In Malaysia, for example, it's easy in Malaysia, right? Because in Malaysia, we have 2 types of fund managers. One is fund managers with Islamic window, which means the fund manager can offer conventional and Islamic fund. And we also have a licensed Islamic fund manager. When your license is an Islamic fund manager, you can only issue Islamic funds. You cannot have conventional fund under your
Conventional funds.
Yes.
Yeah.
For Franklin Templeton, so you need to see the entity. If the entity is not an Islamic fund management, so meaning that they have conventional fund under their book. So you need to be very careful on that. Yeah.
So we need to differentiate between fund managers. So fund manager, they have their portfolios, they have their products, and some of their products is categorized under the sharia compliance, okay, which is endorsed by Amanie, which is some as you mentioned. So we need to be careful in which funds or which products do we want to get involved with.
Yes.
Am I right, Mr.?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
All right. Thank you so much, Madam Suhaida. Maybe one last few words from Madam Suhaida.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Iman. Thank you for this IFSG community for this opportunity given to me to be with you tonight. I hope that it's very much beneficial. So yes, I do understand that there are a lot of confusion, especially from the retail market, which fatwa we need to follow, which ustaz we need to follow, which which decision we need to follow.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So I do respect that all ustaz and ustazah has their own knowledge in terms of sharia. There is no doubt on that. But when it comes to Islamic finance or the muamalah, I would say that please look into these ustaz and ustazah which are focusing in Islamic finance, in muamalat, which are specialized in this industry or in this era. Just like doctors. Doctors are all the same. They have a very much basic knowledge in terms of your health and medicine. But when it comes to heart problem, you don't go to brain surgeon.
Doctor. Oh yeah, yes.
Yeah. So when you have a heart problem, you don't go to brain surgeon. So you need to find a right specialist for your heart. Right. So same goes to Islamic finance.
It's a great advice, Madam Suhaida. Thank you so much. We from IFSG would like to say our thank you, and we are honored to have you here. And I believe there's a lot more that you would like to share with us, but time is not our side. Indeed, we have learned a lot from your experience and from the knowledge that has been gained from throughout the times you are in the industry. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. It's my pleasure.
All right. So do look out on IFSG Space for the next episode for More Than Just Money series, a series for anything that is Islamic finance related. With that, once again, thank you, Madam Suhaida, and thank you to all the participants. See you again. Good night and stay safe. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.